Horizon TV, the beacon for the nation.
A very good evening to you right here from Horizon TV. Of course, it is a very good evening and welcome to Live Real Talk. But before we go into the details, as I said earlier, it is a very good evening because earlier on today, Horizon TV scooped an award at the annual Kuza Award, and I have the certificate here with me. I don't know if my camera person and my floor manager tonight Mohammed Sam Obora Nahoda can help me zoom in at this certificate. Actually, this certificate was presented today at an event that was graced by ICT and Communications PS, Dr. Ezekiel Mutua, the KFCB chairperson, among other dignitaries who graced the event at the Move and Peak Hotel. It is an annual event that is organized by Communications Authority of Kenya to appreciate the good work that has been done by the media industry players, of course, from the mainstream media to the digital media that cuts across. That is from viewership and listenership as well. Categories varies from the best, the most popular TV station or the most reliable news, the most loved program by the kids. If you see, if I can, Mohammed Samobora, if you can zoom in, this certificate is actually written Children and Broadcasting Award. And I represented Horizon TV at the awarding ceremony together with my boss and my brother Abu Sufyan Ahmed. I think we have the clip, Suleiman Nachesa. I don't know if you can play that clip. Yes, as you can see in that clip there, that was myself earlier on today at the Move and Peak Hotel in Westlands during the awards, receiving on behalf of Horizon TV. And we got to be awarded Children and Broadcasting Award for Local Children Programming TV. What exactly does this mean? It means that Horizon TV came number 3, the bronze, second runners up in this category, whereby we were playing content that is suitable and it's most popular by the kids all over the country. This is just but a stepping stone. And one thing that gave me a lot of hope and a lot of heart at that event was after all the event in our photo session with the overall winners. I'm saying this overall winners, but there's no such category as overall winners, but this is the media house that scooped most awards. That is the Royal Media Services, because of the many outfits they have. So they scooped many awards in various outfits. And one thing that Yvonne Okwara Matole, who is my senior in the profession, she said, congratulations, 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 Horizon TV. I've heard about you. Today I've seen you, and I am congratulating you. She said that it has been over 20 years this award has been going on, and Citizen TV has been in existence, or RMS for that matter, has been in existence for a couple of years. But again, for Horizon TV to be in the chart in its 4th year of existence, which is just a digital media with a particular niche, that is something. That is something worth celebrating about. Thank you so much, Yvonne Okwara Matola and Jamila Muhammad right there from Royal Media Services, who gave us a lot of appreciation and congratulations. Thank you so much to all our viewers who have made this possible. Thank you. May God continue to shower His immense blessings on you. This award, this certificate, this recognition is not for us, but it's for you. You have made this possible. Thank you. God bless you. Of course, I cannot finish this without thanking the actual team that made this possible. That is Abu Najma with Kids, one of the most popular shows on Horizon TV. Thank you, thank you, thank you, everyone who's been part and parcel of Abu Najma with Kids. And of course, our pioneer, our parent organization, those who are incubating us, the wazers who are guiding us. That is the Tamas Communications Board Limited. Thank you, thank you, thank you so much, our respected elders. We love, appreciate, and respect you so much. Thank you so much for your leadership and guidance for over all these years, and you have enabled us to scoop this award. Thank you so much. Of course, not forgetting the Jamia Mosque Board and Management and the General Society as a whole. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Without Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, through you, we could not be able to achieve this. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Now, flipping pages and moving into our discussion tonight, where we are, of course, once again celebrating. That is, after unconditional ceasefire agreement was reached last night between the Hamas fighters and the Israeli government. Of course, Hamas fighters came in to defend the Palestinian people who were being oppressed and pushed to the corner. And tonight, joining me virtually to discuss this important conversation, I have Reverend Timothy Njoya. Reverend Timothy Njoya, good evening, and thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Yes, good evening, viewers.
Thank you so much. And of course, I have the Isukha South Member of County Assembly, Honorable Farouk Machanje. I hope I pronounced that name correctly. Honorable Farouk Machanje, thanks so much for making time for us this evening.
Shukran. Assalamu alaikum, and good evening to Reverend Njoya.
Wa alaikum salam, and thank you so much once again for making time for us this evening. I want to go straight to Reverend Timothy Njoya. Reverend Timothy Njoya, after this violence erupted in the state of Palestine, we saw a number of countries, a number of people going up on the screens, taking up arms and going out on the streets to demonstrate of the brutality and the massacre and the butchering that was happening to the people of Palestine. Of course, before the ceasefire, as of the ceasefire last night, 230 people lost their lives, over 2,500 people left homeless. Part of the 230 people who lost their lives, 65 of them are children. So having taken place in the state of Palestine, it has been confused to be a religious issue. Reverend Timothy Njoya, you have been quite vocal about the oppression ongoing in Palestine, and I'd love to start with you to dispel these facts. From your point of view, like, why do you take part in the struggle to free Palestine from the brutal terrorist Israel nation?
Yes, sir, I've been in the struggle for the liberation of Palestine for many reasons. Because many Israelis, meaning Jews, because Palestinians are Israelis. I know many people who study theology from the University of Beirut are Christians. And for a long time, I have always admired the way the Palestinians stood for the rights, the way we Africans stood, the way South Africans stood against apartheid. And even the way I supported the way the Jews resisted Hitler. Zionism, that time was a victim. But now the board has changed. The people who were Zionists and were persecuted in Europe now have changed side and have gone this the fall of Jericho syndrome for other Palestinians. You all know that the Palestinians, all those who were there, are the 10 tribes who spread in DC, and the capital is Samaria. And you have know that in DC, the capital of the 10 tribes of Judah and Ephraim came to Jerusalem. And since then, the southern kingdom, when the Assyrians invaded Samaria, General Saknaka, the Israelites, the from rejoice. That is, but again, in 586 BC, Nebuchadnezzar from Babylon located the southern kingdom, and it suffered worse than the northern kingdom because the northern kingdom was not taken to anywhere, to Nineveh or to other areas, or Damascus. You know that the southern kingdom people were exiled to Babylon. When they returned, the northern kingdom was there, the kingdom of Judah, the kingdom of David, stayed there. They came and they occupied Jerusalem, and they made it their capital. But it was a capital of David, the Solomon and others. It was not a capital of David alone. And the feeling that it is for you alone is a fact. It was right. That is the history of the world. And therefore, I'm saying all the people in Israel,
Okay.
including Palestinians, have right to be in Jerusalem. And they are right to be in Jerusalem. They have a right to be the children of Abraham
Yeah.
and the children of Isaac and Jacob. Because they divided in that mind that that they see doesn't mean that they are not one nation.
So
So
Reverend, one thing I'm
the
understanding from you is that this is not an entirely an Islamic affair issue. It's not an entirely Islamic affair, but it's a humanity issue. For as long as you're human, then it can be
I'm trying
part
to
and
say.
parcel of this struggle, correct?
Yes, I'm trying to say that this is it's a sectarian, racist apartheid against another group called children of Abraham and of Isaac, who were from Northern Kingdom.
Okay.
Therefore, I
Yeah.
believe that today we are saying that just apartheid and the voice are still in South Africa. The struggle against apartheid was not about racism.
Okay.
It was about freedom. It was about dignity. It was about humanity. In Kenya, we've struggled with the white culture, but we still have such. We have families of the white family and many other things like in Kenya. It's because we are not fighting for African racism. We are fighting for human rights and the dignity. So when I visited Arafat in Tunisia, when he was
Okay.
we talked about why is he fighting? Does he no? We are all entitled to Jerusalem. We are all entitled to our religions. The religions of Islam, sorry, the religion of Abraham, Islam, Christianity, Judaism.
Okay.
These three are Abrahamic beliefs.
Abrahamic religion. Yeah.
They are Abrahamic faith. And none can exclude another or condemn another. So Judaism should not arrogate itself to have a priority
Yeah.
over Christians or over Muslims because we are all children of Abraham.
Thank you so much, Reverend. That is well understood. I want to bring in Honorable Farouk Machanje in this discussion. Of course, you have been quite vocal as well on this matter of Palestine. Honorable Farouk Machanje, last night the world was in celebratory mood after a ceasefire, unconditional ceasefire agreement was reached, of course, by the UN General Assembly of the Security Council. That was a good news to the globe because people were celebrating. And of course, it came after a number of efforts. It came and it left at least, the 11 days left at least 230 people to have lost their lives, at least 46 buildings which were down, at least 2,500 people were homeless, at least 63 children were among the casualties on the Palestinian side alone. This, of course, is nothing compared to the previous one that came in 2014. So this whole push and pull between Israel and Palestine is something that dates back to 1947, 1948. Right now, we are all celebrating ceasefire. For how long will we celebrate ceasefire, or for how until the next war erupts between Palestine and Israel? Like, are we playing a cat and mouse chase game right now? Farouk, Machanje, what's your opinion on that?
Yes, thank you, Faisal. And I think the world has got to be very frank and honest in the undertaking when it comes to the conflict in the Middle East. Especially, Israel has got to be called a bully, because they are a bully actually to the Palestinians. And when the world, in quotes, celebrates a ceasefire, an unconditional ceasefire at that, it leaves a lot to be desired, because it actually means that this game is under the control of Israel. So Israel can cause mayhem and then turn up and say that, look, we need a ceasefire, once they see that there is a lot of pressure from the rest of the world. And Israel has actually gotten away with all this violence because of the veto power of America. You know, we should ask ourselves, why was the United Nations formed? The United Nations was formed to maintain peace and security in the world. Now, when we get 5 countries which have got veto power, not using that veto power to bring Israel to account for the atrocities in the Middle East, it leaves a lot to be desired. So, Faisal, I agree with you. This is a cat and mouse game. And I think what happens is that we are actually massaging the ego of Israel. At the same time, we've left ourselves at the mercy of Israel, because they can call a ceasefire whenever they want. They just have to get America to do that for them through the United Nations Security Council. And then whenever they want to attack again, they can do it before another ceasefire. Israel has got to be taken to book.
Okay.
And I know that the International Criminal Court is actually eager to get into Israel and take action against the perpetrators. But Israel has dared them to try that. Look at the audacity of Israel. They've said that they don't even recognize the ICC. Now, so Faisal, I think we need to actually bring Israel to account for all that it has done in the Middle East. We can't give it an unconditional ceasefire. We need to put stringent measures to ensure that they will not go out and bully the Palestinians again, because in 11 days, 230 people are dead. Are we just saying these people's lives do not matter? We actually have to bring the war to Israel and ensure that they will not again think about bombing the Palestinians.
In that regard, I'm going to ask you 2 questions, 2 in 1 question. One is in reacting to what you've said. You say that Israel is doing all this because they're enjoying the veto power from the United States of America. But 2 days ago, which was on the 19th of May 2021, in addressing a congregation in Durban, that is Porter's, the President of the United States of America, His Excellency Joe Biden, appeared to be shifting paradigms to the remarks he made in 1967 in regards to the situation in Israel and creating an Israel. And he was sympathizing and empathizing with the people of Palestine publicly. This is the first time that even analysts say that he came out appearing to be sympathetic and empathetic, and maybe they say that would be a possible paradigm shift. Joe Biden has confirmed a couple of times to the UN General Assembly and the UN Security Council, for that matter, a couple of times, that he has had more than 4 telephone conversations with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu to cease fire and stop attacking Israel. So in that regard, then, where does that leave out your comments on that Israel is enjoying all this because they are enjoying protection from the United States of America? That's one. Secondly, you're saying that we are at the mercy of Israel because they are appearing to be controlling the shots. They can cease fire when they want to, or they can decide not to cease fire. In that regard, then, what options are left to take if not agree on unconditional ceasefire between both parties? Because from my understanding, both parties, that is the Hamas and the Israeli security minister, were both inside a meeting and they agreed to cease fire unconditionally. So in that regard, then, what options does that leave us with? Farouk?
When Biden was a senator, he came out very strongly against any form of apartheid, especially what was happening in South Africa. He talked very strongly against the apartheid regime. Mm-hmm. And also he's had, as a person, a strong opinion against what the Israelis are doing to the Palestinians. Mm-hmm. Since many decades ago. So as a person, Biden is actually trying to speak it the way it is. But you see, when we talk about the American government, and we know that the American government is actually under the control of the Jews. So as a person, Biden cannot override what the Jews want America to do. Up to date, America has used the veto power 41 times to veto any resolution against Israel. There is no single time that America has called Israel to account. So this is why I'm saying that this game is actually under the control of the Israeli government. And what we need to do is to ask the United Nations Security Council to rise to its mandate of maintaining peace and security in the world. Faisal, I want viewers to understand that the United Nations Security Council also deploys peacekeepers around the world to areas which are under disruption of peace and violence. Mm-hmm. Which other area has faced a lot of violence and disruption of peace apart from what's happening in Palestine? Have we ever had the United Nations deploy peacekeepers to Palestine? Why? Now, the other thing is that sanctions have also been slapped by the United Nations Security Council to countries which attack other countries. But why is it that this is not being seen to happen in Israel? So that's why I'm saying that whatever is happening in Israel and Palestine and whatever conflict we want to look at, it is just Israel bullying Palestine, and they know they can get away with it. They've gotten away with it since time immemorial, since 1947. That's when this issue started. In 1948, when Ben-Gurion declared Israel a sovereign state.
So,
Farouk, we started having military incursions in Palestine.
Farouk, then what options are left there for Palestinians to take? Because in this particular case, they were the ones on the losing side. In 2014, they were the ones on the losing side. If you look at the data in 2014, and before that, the deadliest one was in 1967. In 2014, we had at least 2,256 Palestinians who lost their lives, compared to Israelis 85. And those who were injured were 17,125 compared to Israeli who were 2,639. So if you're saying that we are not, or rather we are playing to Israelis' cards, then what options are there left to take up, if not do an unconditional ceasefire?
Yes, unconditional cease is at the moment, but I don't believe in that because when you are looking at justice, there should be conditions set for that justice to be realized. You can't just say, okay, stop it. We want justice. Reverend Timothy Njoya will tell you that for justice to be seen, okay, for peace to be seen, justice has got to be enacted. We can't have peace in the Middle East when we say that we are giving it to Israel unconditionally. There must be stringent conditions to ensure that Israel does not get into the bullying mode again. And when we look at what needs to be done, I think the Palestinians have brought their case to the international community, especially with the recent terrorist acts from Israel.
Yeah.
Now it is for the international community now to come up and say, we need to find a solution in Palestine. Because when you look at who is actually supporting Israel when it comes to arming it, giving it the modern weapons, it's the Americans. But why is it that when Palestinians also require weapons to safeguard themselves, they will not allow them to reach the Palestinians? So what type of conflict are we looking at? Here we've got the big powers supplying arms to Israel, and the latest arms for that matter, and then these others are not allowed to get any arms.
So
they have to smuggle the small arms that they can into Palestine. I mean, if we want a war and we want this thing settled through a war, let either side arm themselves. But when you tie the hands of someone behind and then you've left the other, his hands are untied, how do you expect to call that a fair match?
It's an unfair.
So it is actually, I think what the Palestinians have done is that they've tried to restrain themselves, but bring this case to the international community. Now we need to find a solution on how we can mitigate the issues in Palestine.
Thanks so much. Honorable Reverend Timothy Njoya, I want to bring you in. This is a matter that has been a thorny issue in the Middle East since the 1948 or 1947, for that matter. That's when it started. Reverend, why do you think this matter has taken so long? We've seen the apartheid in South Africa. It came later and ended earlier compared to the push and pull that's still ongoing in Palestine. Why do you think it's taking all this time, Reverend?
Because I studied a bit of military, the military balance between the Arab world and the Jews and the Israel. I'm calling it Israel. I call it the kingdom of the Jews because even Palestinians are Israel. So I'm saying I studied the battle. Israel military was not very big, but it's scientific, it's technology. The Arabs have traditional armies, rigid traditional structural armies because the main kingdom. So you have a different, a scientific military, which the Arabs as a traditional military is cannot replace. So when someone is saying that we hold somebody accountable, and he is using military, I don't see how traditional armies can hold a scientific hold an army accountable. That's that. Let's go now to the moral option. The more option which we found, and it worked in South Africa, taking sanctions. It worked. It brought Akina Farouk and Vost to their knees. Africans used to not to trade with Israel, and they take sanctions. Now it seems all of them are important to Israel. So who is going to take sanctions? Is it America? Is it Europe? And they are the ones who carry the gift, having killed 6 million Jews in South Africa. So I'm saying the more open is the one who, and the more apart, the more open is the one which the UN holds. UN does not have a military of fighting America, Britain, or Germany, or Eastern Europe, or Western Europe, who are actually the real Israel is the real champion of America and Britain and the Western Europe. So these people could hold, if they are decided to hold Israel, they can. So the only way we can do it is agree to the UN sanctions.
Reverend, you've mentioned about sanctions, and I just want to weigh in on matters of sanctions. You see, Israel is a powerhouse. It has placed itself as a powerhouse in terms of economic and bilateral relations with other states. If you see the way it has allied itself with some big powerhouses in the game. If you see some of the exports that Israel is exporting to the world, these are some of the most expensive and the most used items in the world today. Some of the exports include diamonds, include fruits, food, so a number of countries are depending on Israel. And if you see some of these big powerhouses are depending on Israel for economic gains. So if you're talking about sanctions, then who to sanction Israel? And what's the better, what alternative will they get for that?
Israel economy, even those all those agriculture cannot make it in the market by America. America everything in Israel. They admit they give only about $400 billion a year to the budget of Israel, but actually they give $1 billion. And also the element in diaspora in the world. Israel is maintained by the Western world. It is the channel of the Western world. If I was talking now of moral sanctions, like now you talk about women, the others, we need moral indignation. And we need all people to come together and say, okay, we must hold accountable morally by not accepting their products, not accepting their talent, not accepting their export, the way we did in South Africa. And I think that we need to hold Israel morally accountable. But when you talk of militarily, they have nuclears, which is scientific war. And the Arabs, Iran tried, now is gang against Iran, the same, but they are not gang against Israel. Because Israel is a property of America and the Western world. So the only way we could persuade the Western world to hold Israel now morally accountable. But when you go to the military, they have the advantage over the Palestinians and over the Arabs.
Interesting. Thanks so much. Farouk Machanje, what I want to ask you right now is actually the Muslim world involvement in this. It is something that has dominated the airwaves and social media for that matter. Like, where is the Muslim voice? Where is Saudi Arabia? Where is Qatar? Where is Dubai? Actually, it was so sad to see some of the Muslim states, Arab states that are perceived to be Muslim states, advertising tours to Israel at a time when Israel is bombing and sending rockets and missiles to Palestine. So it is something that has dominated the airwaves and social media for that. People have been asking, where are the Muslim states? Apart from one leader who came out a bit quite vocal, that is Tayyip Erdogan, who is the president of the Turkish president. Where have been the rest? Where are the rest of the leaders, the Muslim leaders? And do you think they would have made an impact had they come in? And in what way would they best come in to alleviate the situation in Palestine?
I'm saying that
yes,
Farouk.
actually, it's a pity to see the way the so-called Muslim leaders from Muslim countries are behaving on this issue, because it's actually like they are also beaten in the head. They want to show that they wouldn't like to take the side of the oppressed against the oppressor, which is quite unfortunate. Because if we get back to religion, the Prophet Muhammad has said that we should not oppress anybody, neither should we accept oppression on our side. So for these people, for these leaders to keep quiet, I think they are driven by selfish interests, because you find that these leaders are in big business with the Israeli government, and who controls the economies of the Middle East? Of course, it's the Americans. And when we talk about the Americans, there is a heavy drive by the Jews in that control. So most of them are there for their personal interests, and they wouldn't like to be seen as starring conflict with Israel, and then get in the wrong books of the Americans and what have you. But I just want to belabor a point that has been said by Reverend. We find that the problem in the Middle East, especially when we talk about the Palestinian question, this problem was brought there by the British, when in 1947 there was a UN adopted resolution number 181, which was known as the Partition Plan, to divide British mandate of Palestine into Arab and Jewish states. And before that, Faisal, Kenyans may want to interest themselves in this, that there was a plan to come and settle the Jews in Kenya. But then, when the Jews came to see where they wanted to be settled, they did not like it. And they chose Palestine because it was more strategic to them. So I normally ask myself, suppose they had agreed to be settled in Kenya, how would we have actually fought off such a brutal enemy as the Jews have actually been seen to be? So we actually have to take this thing to the United Nations. They've got a very big role to play in this issue. And America has got to be seen as being a just nation. Please stick with the oppressed and ensure that the oppressed are no longer oppressed. Let's just get justice in the world, because nobody wants to see young children being killed. Now, when you talk about the Arab leaders, they should also know that whatever is happening to the Palestinians will tomorrow afflict them. Because we can't put ourselves in this situation of saying, oh, that is the red cow being eaten, I am black. Tomorrow, when they eat another cow, oh, that's the white one, I'm black. But later on, you'll find that eventually you're going to be eaten as the black cow, and that's when you'll realize that had I stood up when the red cow was being eaten, then I think I would have myself at that point.
Thank you so much, Farouk Machanje. And of course, you've mentioned a very good historical piece that dates back to 1947. And it dates back to a couple of years earlier when Adolf Hitler, who was the leader of Nazis in Germany, massacred the Jewish people that they had to run for their safety. It's an interesting story that I would recommend for everyone to go and find and read or listen to a podcast about that series of Adolf Hitler and how it started until he ended up brutally treating the Jews until they had to run away. So the Palestinians were kind enough, empathetic enough to welcome them as refugees. And today, a couple of years later, they are paying the price of being nice. To be precise, it is 74 years later. Yes, to be precise, it's 74 years later, they're paying the price of being kind. The current generation is paying the price of their forefathers and the previous generation for being kind and welcoming the other Palestinians who were brutally massacred and chased away out of Germany. Ladies and gentlemen, because of time, I'm being pressured to finalize the show, but again, I cannot do this without thanking my beloved, able, very amazing, well-informed panelists, that is Reverend Timothy Njoya and Mheshimiwa Farouk Machanje, for their contribution and giving great insights into the show. Of course, once again, congratulations to the entire Horizon team, from the board all the way to the staff, to the cleaners and all, and so on and so forth. Congratulations to Horizon staff, and thank you so much to you, our viewers, for making us raw up here, for making us win this award. I believe this is just one among the many. This has been the Live Roll Talk. Until next week, same place, same time. I've been your host, Faisal Kassim. See you. Assalamu alaikum.
Horizon TV, the beacon for the nation.
Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar,